had my last class like this today. Oh my gosh. Yeah. We came to the farm. It was so cute.
Good evening. I'll call the meeting of the M.S.A.D 49 School Board Special Meeting to order. Roll call, please. Ms. Booton?
Here.
Ms. Boyden?
Here.
Mr. Calvary? Ms. Chesley?
Here.
Ms. Dumont?
Here.
Ms. Flood-Giroux?
Here.
Mr. Knox here. Ms. Kugelmeyer?
Here.
Mr. Martin is unable to attend. Mr. Neubauer is at a graduation. He's unable to attend. Ms. Rudnicki?
Here.
Ms. Toto Lawrence?
Here.
Mr. White?
There.
And Ms. Hersey?
Here.
We will go to the Pledge of Allegiance. We're going to go to our student rep first.
So, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors are preparing for finals that are currently scheduled for June 19th and 20th, as far as we've been made aware. And seeing how we are going to school so late into the year, and with summer approaching, students are not looking forward to the hot days, especially in the Annex and History Wing, where it is arguably the hottest during that time. So that's exciting. Additionally, sports are wrapping up, and senior nights for lacrosse, girls and boys, softball, baseball, and any other sports that I might be missing were successful, where everybody is getting those special moments, and their banquets are happening, and the final games, I believe, for girls lacrosse is actually happening right now at Lincoln Academy. So all these sports are wrapping up, and everybody's basking in that and enjoying that. Theater will also be having their banquet in the upcoming weeks. And yesterday, I believe, on social media, there was an outcry for money to help pay outstanding bills for students' lunches, specifically for the senior class, to ensure that people were going to be able to graduate. And from my understanding, that was a fairly successful measure. And so we want to take a little bit of time to say thank you to those who donated and took the time and effort to help ensure that first seniors and now underclassmen are getting those bills paid for. And I'd also like to touch more on some of the aspects of seniors right now. So firstly, today was the last day of finals for them. So throughout the day, you could see quite a few seniors walking through the halls and visiting for last times with some of their favorite teachers, or just popping in and sitting down and, hey, what are you doing here? Oh, I just want to sit for a minute. And then they'd talk about some past memories. So that was kind of a bittersweet moment of the day to see some of like our peers and friends taking their last moments in the high school as students. They are also on their senior schedules for this week and for next week are some things like marching practice, class meetings, and there's also something that kind of brings back some memories for other people that are meetings with principal. And that part of the agenda is kind of a reminder for the seniors. I've heard lots of them speaking about how that's a little bit of a painful part for them, because at first they were like, who are we going to see when we walk in? I heard that in halls quite a few times. And then I believe they said they saw Mr. Hersom for parts of the day, they saw other administrative positions, and it was kind of just a little bit upsetting to them because they were feeling the absence of Mr. Campbell's presence, and that's being felt throughout the district, especially with these seniors, not just the underclassmen, but specifically them. And along the same lines of discussion, students continue to hear whispers of their beloved staff members on the search for new jobs and others resigning. And a lot of the people that I have encountered are sad, distraught, they're concerned, and they keep bringing these like feelings and questions they have to me and asking, like, can we express this to more people? Like, we're worried, like, what am I going to do without this like support system type of thing? And so just wanting to keep that more in mind. And these people are reiterating the incentive that M.S.A.D 49 district employees are not replaceable. They're irreplaceable, and they're what makes this district so important. And we're wondering, how are we possibly going to deal with these problems of so many people potentially leaving we're going to feel a bigger blow if we're losing such important and hardworking people, and we're going to face problems trying to replace and fill these positions in the upcoming years. As the student rep, I'm also concerned on these matters as well, but I also want to continue to reiterate that I'm very grateful that the board continues to hear us out and continues to have, trying to have complete transparency with us and to hear the community's frustrations, feelings, and it's obvious that you're all taking what we're saying to heart and trying your best to come up with ways that work to accomplish what everybody wants. So continue to say thank you for that, and I appreciate your efforts, and I hope that you continue to hear what the community says. So we're counting on you guys.
Thank you very much. I liked it. It's great information, and I think the board will definitely hear that for sure, so I definitely appreciate it. Anybody have any questions or comments?
I just want to mention that I had invited Mr. Campbell to attend the graduation as my guest, and he has accepted, so we're looking forward to having him.
Awesome.
Anything else on that? All right, so we will go to, we have no minutes tonight, so we'll go to citizen input. And I'll just remind, like I did the last couple times, citizen input, we have a policy for agenda items. So any comments we can have is related to agenda items that's on the agenda. I think we have copies somewhere here. If somebody wants one or needs one. Also, again, it's please be respectful. Be respectful and courteous in your comments, because the constructive comments will help us make the decisions on the agenda items. So without further ado, if anybody has any citizen input, we'll hear it now. If you want to stand up, or you can come up to the front, either one.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, members of the school board, my name is Stuart Kinley, and I'm a resident of Fairfield. On May 23rd, 2019, I reported to the board that the minutes of the meeting held December 22nd or 20th, 1918, a motion listed as 18-12-13 was passed unanimously but never stated. At that time, Chair Rudnicki should have assisted on a motion. Board bylaws state that if the chair wishes, they can request the motion to be in writing. Under board rules, she could have, this is verified by, you can verify this by viewing the last few minutes of the December 20th meeting on YouTube. I suggested that the superintendent was responsible, since he was the one who prepared and signed the minutes. The manufactured motion contains two errors. First, it recorded that the non-motion was moved by member Sean Knox, while the video clearly shows Vice Chair Martin as having moved the matter. Second, the motion references 1 M.S.A.D section 405, parent 6, which refers to permitted deliberations in executive session. The correct citation, I believe, should have been Title 20, MRS section 1051. And I will read Title 20, subsection 1051, paragraph 5, which reads, notice to the commissioner annually when a new superintendent is chosen. The chairman and the secretary of the school board shall certify under oath to the commissioner, and I emphasize that it shall be certified under oath to the commissioner. I did this a number of times when I was chair. I did it 5 successive years. On a form provided by the commissioner, all facts relating to the unit's selection of the superintendent. The Department of Education received the required form on January 14, 2019. I have a copy of the form of the attending documentation, including the December 20, 2018 board minutes, which contain the manufactured motion. The required form is signed by Shelley Rudnicki, chairperson, and Reza Naiman, secretary. Their signatures appear directly below a statement which reads, number 7, we certify that the above information and actions of the board pursuant to Title 20 MRS Section 1051 are in accordance with its votes taken on 12/20/2018. Both Chairman Rudnicki and Superintendent Naiman certified under oath that the December 20 minutes were correct. when one of both should have known that this was in error. I find this behavior to be egregious. When an error is made, such as happened when a non-motion passed unanimously, it needs to be corrected. The board could have notified and held a special meeting scheduled to properly make and vote on the corrected motion. I would note that I have watched the board on multiple occasions this year struggle to amend and correct board minutes to accurately reflect actions taken. Also, I will acknowledge that I was not the one to discover the manufactured December 20th minutes. It was brought to my attention by several board members. Why is this important? The board and the citizens of Senate 49 deserves a superintendent who is credible, believable, and honest. Are there other fraudulent reports that have been filed with the state? I remember while being chair, being told at that time by the superintendent that this district, as all others are responsible for filing at least 27 different reports with the state. This is important. Are there other minutes which have been tampered with? For a superintendent to file a fraudulent required with the state is unconscionable. It is my recommendation that the board and/or its agents further investigate this matter in which I have just reported. Should the board find what I have reported to be substantiated, then the board should immediately initiate dismissal proceedings against the current superintendents. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else with citizen input? Yes, sir.
My name is Carson Hersey. I'm a junior at Lawrence, and I have a few things I'd like to say. I've always been told to respect my elders and give the benefit of the doubt, which I've been doing regarding everything going on in the community and regarding the superintendent. With that being said, Dr. Neiman does not have my trust, and I have no confidence in his ability to lead our community. He shows several times he does not care about how the community feels, and he just sits behind his computer at every meeting instead of truly listening. I do thank the board members who have listened since the start of this. I appreciate their efforts to try and fix this, and I do believe we have an extremely long road ahead of us. I think that it's important that the board knows that many teachers in the high school are thinking about resigning if they have not already. This is extremely saddening to not only me, but many students. For the past few weeks, it's all you really hear about in the halls. It'll be my senior year, and I won't have my last year with some of my favorite teachers. These teachers not only teach us things in the curriculum, but they teach us how to be kind, how to be there for one another, and they are just there for the students. They are not just teachers, they are role models. I don't blame them for leaving. I want what's best for them right now, and working for the M.S.A.D 49 High School probably isn't the best for them. In an article published this year on January 26, 2019, Dr. Neiman states, "I will fight with any politician, any system that will take money away from the kids." I wish that were the case, but speaking on behalf of the kids, the money has not been going to or supporting us. The money has going places such as buying out our principal. In that article, it also talks about how we frequently visit the school, the elementary schools, to play with the kids at recess, eat lunch with them, and even visit them in the classroom. I know this is true because I've seen it in plenty pictures on the M.S.A.D 49 website. The funny thing is, the high school students have not gotten the same treatment. No, I don't expect them to come eat lunch with us, but I do feel we need to make a relationship with our superintendent. Many of us have harsh feelings towards him since the resignation of Mark Campbell. I feel it is important that we can trust our superintendent. I also want to add about the math program and the special ed department not really having a position right now is probably catastrophic to all students. I was in the math program 3rd and 4th grade, and without that program I would not have been at the level I am now, and I am at the correct level with my grade. I also think it's important to find the positive in things. With this, it was hard but not impossible. I discovered that the community has come together. Even though we all have our own opinions and feelings, we're coming together. Mark Campbell took one for the team. All of this had happened in the middle of the school year. I don't think the community would have had such an emotional response. We all have clearly seen that everyone has strong ideas, feelings, and thoughts, and that's because we're Bulldogs. We want to do our best in the classroom, community, and on the field and the stage. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else for citizen input? Seeing none, so we will move on to the next item. So old business, we have no old business. So I will entertain a motion to go into executive session to interview a candidate for a director of special education under 1 M.S.A. section 405 6A. It's moved and seconded to go into executive session to interview a candidate for Director of Special Education under 1 MRSA, Section 4056A. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Ten opposed, 0. So we'll be in executive session at 7:50. Okay, we're back in session. So moving right along, I will entertain a motion to authorize the superintendent and chair of the board to enter into a contract pending successful negotiation with a candidate for special education director.
So moved. Second.
Moved by Danielle, seconded by Cara. So moved and second to authorize the superintendent and chair of the board to enter into a contract pending successful negotiation with a candidate for a special education director. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor? 10. All those opposed? Motion passes. So we'll go to the next item on the agenda, and this item actually, as written is an executive session item, and we're going to do this in open session if the board is okay with that. Everybody is good with that, okay? So let me get my notes here. I apologize. We have something here. We have Mr. Lowe, Peter Lowe. If you would come up to the fancy table in the front, that would be good. I welcome you. I met you for a second earlier. Welcome to the board.
Thank you so much.
I'm just pulling up your information here. I appreciate you joining us today. As you probably know, this is a full board interview for legal counsel. And I wanted to ask you that we're going to do this in open session, and I'm presuming make sure you're okay with that, unless you don't want that.
Absolutely.
Okay.
The first job I ever had as a lawyer was interviewed by, I think, as many people, and they were all partners, but that was a long time ago.
Right. Mid-20s, huh? Yeah.
No
So I'm looking at the board has your proposal form that you had provided. Just wondering if you could kind of start by telling us a little bit about the firm and whatnot.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, thank you everybody for having me here tonight. And I'll keep it at a high level. I know there's information already in the proposal. I'm a partner with Wilson Law Firm of Brown and Isaacson. And I've been there since 1990, and I joined a firm that already had an education law practice. And I've been one of the main lawyers who continue that practice. I hate to say how many years that is, but I guess math not being my strong suit, but it's getting a little close to 30 now. And I and 4 or 5 of my other colleagues practice in the school law area, and as you can see from the proposal, it's a mix between representing public schools, some large municipal school districts, some small rural districts, some RSUs or S.A.Ds. We also represent a good number of the public charter schools. We represent charter development services. We work with the state on a variety of issues. So we've got a good cross-section. And I've always told people when they say, why are you in the school law field? I'm personally, and I think the colleagues I'm in it with we're in it because we like doing it. Mm-hmm. And it's, for those of you who serve on a board, the issues that you face are endless. They're of great variety. They're of considerable complexity. They count most fundamentally because of you're dealing with the most important thing, education of students. But there's this great array of constituents that you have to address and deal with in terms of both the legal rights and responsibilities. So I've done it for a long time, and there is never a dull day. And I know I'll get a call from a superintendent or a board chair, and it will be some new wrinkle on an issue that we've dealt with over the years. So it's a big part of my practice. It's a part that I enjoy, and it never ceases to amaze and interest me.
I'll open it up to the floor for this one, or, guys, anybody want to get started? Do you want me to? I guess I'll start, I guess.
Yeah, sure.
I started the last one, so.
Yeah.
So, I mean, sometimes we talk about reputational risk, with law firms and even with other companies. How do you manage that, that reputational, risk for your firm, and develop that, and, develop your legal services?
Well, our firm has been around for almost 100 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess how we manage our reputational risk is by always striving to provide an excellent service. One of the clients that I work with the most, and particularly on the employment front, which obviously is very big in public schools, is LLB. And I've worked with them for as long as I've practiced at Brown & Isaacson, which is since 1990. And I say that because the firm that LLB wants to be aligned with has to be impeccable in terms of our reputation, and it's something we jealously safeguard, because obviously from the public sector here in Maine, there's no other name, I don't believe, that has quite that importance of its reputation.
Right.
And the point I've always made is that you can take all of the assets, all of the property, everything that the company like LLB owns, and it can apply in the public sector as well. And there still is nothing more valuable than the reputation of the organization. And one of the things that I find most challenging but rewarding in working in the public sector is your reputation as a district counts equally as LLB jealously guards its reputation, or we do our firm, because the confidence that the community has in you has such a bearing on ultimately your ability to raise the money you need to provide the education and services and employ your staff and your faculty and all of those things. So I think, in fact, in time, I haven't been asked that question before, but we, to some degree, are, when people have asked me what we do, I say we help protect and promote the reputation of our clients. I think it's one of our most primary goals.
Good, yep. You mentioned the employment law, and through your bio, you have significant experience in employment law. Can you just reference some of the others relating to school districts, like special education, or some policies, or budgeting?
So you'll see from the request, the proposal we submitted, I work closely with Dan Starkwood, Dan Nuzzi, Lynn Jelinas, Nat Bessie, and Mike Carey. And what we do, I'll tell you what, the structure we have is that if we were fortunate enough to represent S.A.D. 49, then we have a primary point of contact. We have a lawyer who's assigned as the primary point of contact, and I work with numerous school districts in that capacity. And believe me, so the questions that I'm fielding are sometimes employment, but they will run the gamut. And when you have done it for a long period of time, you develop an expertise in a broad array of issues, whether it's a freedom of access issue, whether it's a FERPA student confidentiality, whether it's a discipline issue, whether it's special education. You also need to know when it's something that requires more specialist knowledge. And so for instance, if something is more complex in the special ed area, I'll have my colleague Nat Bessie or Dan Nuzzi take over. So there may be a matter where it goes to a due process hearing, or there's a mediation, or there's a complaint investigation. Same could apply if there's a lease of a property. I would have somebody who has that knowledge. The analogy I use is when people ask about lawyers, is say, well, think of the medical profession. You go to a cardiologist about your heart, but you're not going to go and have a consultation about your feet. In the school law area, certainly there are lawyers like myself who have specialist areas within school law, but we can't do it alone. And the reason why, frankly, there are two firms, and I think two excellent firms, Drummond Woodson, an excellent law firm. Why there are just two firms in the state now, that frankly is the reality who are practicing this area, is it is a complex area, and you need the bench strength in order to handle all the variety of issues. So, we've structured ourselves that way to be able to provide those services. And employment has many different facets with labor negotiations and other elements of it, but it by no means the only area that I'm regularly dealing with the school clients.
Right. You mentioned about the chair or the superintendent, having a question as far as availability, if we needed a question answered during the day and whatnot, your availability is, like you said, you have other counsel that's available as well, so.
So I would have come with my colleague Dan Stockford tonight, and unfortunately his wife is ill, and Dan can't be here. But Dan and I, the way we have practiced, and we've practiced together for a long time, is we double team in that particular capacity. So if he is the primary counsel for Bangor, for instance, which he is, the Bangor School Department, if Dan is away, which he was for 2 weeks, I am the secondary, and I assume that primary role. Because in the school context, your questions, your issues don't wait. It's not as if, okay, well, Dan's out, so he'll be back next week. We know they are pressing issues. It could be an issue, involving a violent statement made by a student, and you need advice on how to handle it. That was the issue yesterday. It doesn't wait. So we, I believe, work as seamlessly as we can. One covering for the other if the other's not available.
Yep.
You should be able to hear back from your school counsel, and almost immediately. I was jesting outside with my friends in Drummond Woodson, saying that the new
age
thing of a client occasionally texting me, and I'm a little old school, so I haven't quite got used to that yet. And I must admit, before breakfast yesterday, a superintendent texted me, and I was like, I want some boundaries.
Would you make decisions or advise on topics that overrule the superintendent, if need be, and why would you?
Well, it's another interesting question. My view as legal counsel is that I don't make the decisions for my client. That's not within my role. My role is to advise. My role may be at times to recommend, but none of my clients come to me and say, Peter, we have this decision regarding a personnel matter. You decide how we handle it. That I don't think is appropriate for a lawyer to do. I should give you very clear guidance. I should, if I believe that the course of action that the superintendent or anybody else is taking is one that is going to create exposure or liability or inordinate risk, then it's my fiduciary responsibility to respond and give that advice and that counsel, and that's what I would do.
Great. Yep. Anybody? Go ahead, Ms. Kugelmeyer.
So I looked through your shortened CVs, and Sean kind of hit on some of the things, and you did too, about the different areas of law that you practice. So I saw you have labor, and you have sort of some other, it seems seems like you guys are really focusing mostly on employment law. So tell me a little bit more about your experience with special education. So, because it didn't, when I looked, I didn't
Yeah,
see anybody really
so
specialize
I'll
in that.
tell you about mine, and then I'll
Yeah.
tell you about the firms.
Okay, great.
I used to do a lot of special education. I used to handle special education hearings, due process, mediations, and I still advise some of our clients in special education. I didn't have the time or bandwidth to continue to do it because it is very demanding. Dan Nuzzi and Nat Bessie, both in our firm, handle special education matters. They have both very recently been involved in, I'd say, one of the most arduous, complex special education issues that has been litigated in Maine, and there's a lot of them. But they had an issue for a school client, and I'm not breaking any confidentiality, which is widely reported, which is S.A.D 75, which is down in the Hartsville-Thompson area, where a student or a parent wanted to send a student to school equipped with a recording device and record the entire
No
day.
problem there,
And that was intensely litigated, both through due process and through federal court, the full federal court trial. And both Dan and Nat are highly experienced. Because we represent large school districts like Augusta, like Lewiston, like Bangor, three of the biggest, you can't represent, and we don't do Lewiston special ed, I'll be clear about that. We do with Augusta, and we do with Bangor. You can't do it without that bandwidth and that knowledge, because special ed is a highly contentious and complex area. I'm somewhat relieved that I'm less involved in it, to be truthful, but they certainly are.
So, obviously, in this portion, there's a lot of different moving pieces having to do with educational law, and keeping abreast of them is your job. But how do you keep your clients abreast of sort of things on the forefront to know, hey, this is going to be coming your way, so you're going to need to want to do X, Y, and Z, whether or not that has to do with PII or anything having to do with, like, information stored. But can you give some examples about how you do that and the types of education you provide for your clients?
Yeah, well, one of the things I particularly enjoy doing is workshops for clients. And we do, and have done for years, the workshops that are done through M.S.A.D, but we do individualized workshops. So either if it's a topic which we feel that really the clients are requiring some in-depth knowledge and expertise. The whole area of harassment has been a huge issue, and I have been speaking with countless clients and putting on a workshop for them. So it would be an hour workshop where we'd be presenting, whether that's to board members at a high level, or I was in the auditorium in Augusta a few months ago presenting to probably 250 odd educators there on a whole subject of harassment. So frankly, I like that part of the practice, being proactive, being out there.
Yeah, I saw you were a lecturer.
So that's part I particularly enjoy. We do a lot of, and it's a role that I play a lot, we do a lot of work with boards. Some of our school clients have us come on an annual basis. One of our school clients has us do a legal update every year. We do it as part of their summer program. We do it for the administrators. And that's a great avenue to tell them both what's new, what are the trends, what are we seeing. So there's a variety of different things, depending on what the client wants to do, depending on what the client's resources are in the time that they have available. But that's always a pleasure.
One more.
Anybody new, or, go ahead, yeah, you guys can think about it, go ahead.
Wow. Okay, the not new person.
Well, by Robert's, not to interrupt, by Robert's rules, I'm supposed to
No,
let somebody
no, it's
somebody
good,
else
Jeff.
go
I want
first,
you to
so,
take the floor.
go ahead, yep.
Just philosophically, when you're dealing with boards and people come and go, and there are different board dynamics, and different things arise, there's a lot of great, interesting literature out about dealing with the dynamics between split boards or controversial boards. So what has been your sort of experience of your tenure as a lawyer doing that kind of, and what kind of takeaways have you had from that?
Well, one of the things that I particularly interests me most of all in dealing with boards, and frankly, providing training to boards, is the whole issue of civility. And I make that a very high priority. Maybe it's a personal bias that I have, but my own belief is that you, as a board, are role models for your community. And let's be blunt, I've come into boards at times where the civility has frayed or broken down. And so, some of it sounds extremely commonsensical and practical, but I love to talk to boards about how do you express disagreement with a board? What is the role of, because I don't believe board members should be there and simply rubber stamping everything that the administration wants to happen. Why come out late at night like you do? Why not use your knowledge and your experience? However, how that is expressed, how you interact with each other, how you communicate with each other, I think is critical to the effective function of the board. So, frankly, that's the issue that gets me most interested. It's not the arcane nature of what Title I says or 405. It's important, yes, but
Statute 20 isn't it?
Title 28. But I'm more interested in how you work together collectively to reach a decision and how you disagree. I think how people disagree is fundamental, and I'll avoid trying to get on my soapbox too much, but we're having a difficult time throughout society in disagreeing in a respectful manner, and it would be no better than if we are able to do it at the local board level and exemplify how it should be done, because I think it can be done. So that's my very distilled version of something I love to talk about, as you probably can tell.
All right, no more.
Does anybody have any other questions for Mr. Lowe? Is seeing none. Do you have any questions for us?
I always do have questions, but I'm appreciative that you've stayed here late.
Right.
You've asked good questions, and there's quite a few other people who probably are waiting for other business. So I'll be really popular for once as a lawyer.
Right.
So I'm done.
Right. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate that. Yep.
Thank you.
And I guess we'll call up our next group of presenters, if you will. In your packet is a Drummond Woodson. And I welcome the gentleman here to the board, Mr. Stockmeyer, Mr. Felmley, and Mr. Hurlin, right? Yes. From Drummond Woodson. I welcome you. Thank you guys for being here. I do appreciate it.
Sitting at the short table.
Again, this is interview for CERT Legal Services. The board has your documents that you guys had sent. I appreciate that. And if you guys would like, I'll open it up to you guys to just tell us a little bit about the firm, if you will.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Knox. Thank you all for the opportunity to be here and respond to your request for legal services. I am Peter Felmley. I've been working at Drummond Woodson since 2003. I'm currently the chair of the firm's school and local government group. I'm here with Bill Stockmeyer and Eric Hurlin. They can introduce themselves.
Bill Stockmeyer, I work in the area of school finance, which consists of school budgets, state subsidy, and school borrowing, as well as a range of organizational issues. And I work in that area with two other attorneys who are pretty much full-time engaged in that type of practice.
And I'm Eric Hurlin. I've been doing special ed work for the law firm since 1988. And we now have, I think it's 7 people who are doing special education work. 5 of us as attorneys and 2 of us as non-attorney consultants. We're subgroup within the school law group and regularly meet and try to harmonize our understandings of this complicated area of law. So, happy to be here to
Great.
chat with you folks.
Well, I see that you have our materials. I'd like to highlight a couple of points, but this is your interview. Certainly, more than happy to answer any questions that you may have. We've been serving school boards in the state for over 40 years. As Mr. Lowe pointed out, schools wrestle with a multitude of complex legal issues, student rights issues, labor relations issues, special education, finance, political issues, and you know, with the depth of our experience and the depth of our team, our view is that we have the ability to provide the right advice at the time that we need it. Some of that, with that expertise, we have the ability to get the response very, very quickly and immediately upon on the request. Usually with a phone call or an email, so that it doesn't involve extensive amounts of research. I think we pointed out in our materials as well that we've invested a lot of time and effort and money in an online internal searchable database of legal memos that really has been sort of compiled over the last 40 years. Being able to draw upon that, plus the expertise of folks that are able to sort of drill down in very, in some cases, very nuanced technical areas, allows us to provide faster and accurate responses, exactly when you need.
You have experience with the district, the firm does, and you want to continue to work with the district. Can you just speak on your interest relative to, and I think you kind of did some. It sounds like you may have already heard my questions or something like that.
I feel like it was cheating.
Yeah, really.
I know, yeah, we should have set you out.
But you guys are a larger firm, but you have worked with the district some, and clearly there's interest to continue to work with the district. Could you just speak on, this area, or, what type of interest you have? Obviously, the special education piece is, you said you have, 7 other lawyers now, so, yeah.
If I could start, then I'm going to let Eric and Bill take over, because they've been working with your district much longer than I have. I got a call back in April, I believe, maybe early May, to come in and advise you on an interim basis. I've appreciated that opportunity to meet each and every one of you. I've shared some late nights with you. Looks like this may be another. So my experience with the district is actually quite thin, but it's been wonderful to meet your superintendent and each of you. But I know that Eric and Bill, Bruce Smith, others in my firm have been working with your school system for decades, really.
And I'm kind of in that decade position I mentioned the other day when I was here. I've been working with you folks and your various directors for 30 years. But it doesn't seem right to say I have, because one of the striking things, I think, or important things about the way our special ed practice works is it isn't a person-based practice. It's truly a team-based. This group of 6 or 7 people who do this special ed work, we do it around the state. We know the issues that are happening around the state. We know the variety of hearing officers and the DOE people who are part of the special education system. And within our group, we are sharing that. We meet regularly. We share that information. So there's 7 folks who are all basically equally good and available people who have this incredible depth of information that we bring to you. We've certainly done with various directors that you've had. I know your system. I know your system well. I know the special education issues that you guys have faced. You share issues with other districts in the state, the same issues, restraint seclusion issues are issues that are all over the state, and we are involved in that statewide. I think we have a really good connection with the Maine Department of Education folks who oversee some of these areas. I know that's true in special education, and so we, I think, bring that experience to you folks. I'll just say another minute or two. We in our special ed department really, and I think this is true just department-wide, I mean, we really pride ourselves on the educational elements of what we bring to the schools we work for. We're, like Peter and Brandon Isaacson, I mean, we're doing conferences all the time, we're coming into districts all the time. We're also heavy publishers of information on school law. I don't mean to show off yet another work, but you know, this is our main special ed law book, which we've done, and honestly, it's a huge, it ends up sparing you folks calling lawyers, because I know this was true with the directors you've had, but the directors will go to the books that we do and get information so that they're not having to call the lawyer for a lot of the key information. And we love that work, and that educational role we play. It's pretty fair, I think, across the firm for that.
So in my area of school finance, what I really hope that I can offer, or what gets me charged here today is, so school finance, if you think about it, like schools, is it's about money, it's about finances, and it's highly technical because of that reason. It's also about our children. And if you think about it, there are two things about which people get more passionate than their money and their children, right? Our taxes and our kids. And so in my particular area, while it's a specialized area and highly technical and great precision is required to do bond counsel work and work on school budgets, it's also important to have a good intuitive sense of where things are politically. And I like that aspect of bringing my experience and my ability to deal with a range of problems, both political and legal, to bear. In terms of your district, my work actually goes back to quite a long time. I actually started in commercial real estate as an attorney, working on very sophisticated real estate transactions in the early 90s. I moved over to school finance, and I think Ed Fabian was probably the first superintendent here I worked with. So I was looking at some matters over the years in the school finance area, and there are quite a number. And you know, one thing I'd say on the question of, you know, why do we hire lawyers? What do they bring to us? What value do they bring to us? And I noticed that between 2005 and 2010, I worked on 3 bond transactions, not particularly large, $500,000 to $250,000. And because I work only in this area, I was able to help the district access, instead of regular tax-exempt bonds, much more specialized tax credit bonds. As a result, on each of those transactions, the district paid roughly $200,000 to $300,000 less over the course of the term of the bond than it would have been. So I just, you know, I kind of like being able to say, well, I think that brought value to the table for the district. So, and I can say quite honestly, to my knowledge, we handled every tax credit bond transaction in the state of Maine in this particular area, and for many school districts across the state. So, and the third thing I guess I would add is, you know, as one of the more senior attorneys in my firm, one of the things that's most important to me is succession within a law firm, which means bringing to you the most experienced lawyer that I can possibly bring. You know, not as experienced as me, but by training them intensively in an area, having that become a win-win and a value proposition for you as well. Because many matters can be handled by Greg Im or Aga Dixon, as well as I can handle them at a lower hourly rate. And it's really because I spend a lot of time, training them.
Great.
One of the things I wanted to point out is that in the packet of materials, you have a number of bios for folks in our team. I just wanted to comment that we have a tremendous group of talented attorneys that we get to work with every day. Diverse in personalities, but also, I think if you just look at the images, we're proud that, I know in a number of companies, diversity is really important. We're proud of the diversity that we feel we bring in terms of having junior attorneys, more senior attorneys, a great number of extremely talented male and female attorneys, and just a wonderful group of people.
Anybody have any questions? I'll ask the question, how do you, the reputational risk, as far as, it's probably something that you guys think of on every day or whenever you're practicing, but can you just talk about how you protect your reputational risk for your firm as well as you protect the reputation for the district as well?
Well, I can start, but feel free to jump in. I do feel like we're cheating a little bit because I got to think about that question a little bit. But I think it starts with...
Pete did a good job with it, though, didn't he?
You did.
He did it well.
You did. I think that it starts with hiring really good people, putting a lot of time and effort into making sure that your interview process is robust and that you're bringing people on board that have extremely good judgment. That's number one. Number two, Bill Stockmeyer hit on it, and that is making sure that once you get that newer budding attorney, that you make sure to ensure that she or he has the resources, the guidance, the mentoring, and I've been a member of the Associate Development Committee for a number of years at the firm. I was on the hiring committee, and so that's a real passion of mine. I look for great people and make sure that the firm is looking out for them as they develop their careers, because then you're honing that ability for them to make and exercise very good judgment. And then with regard to looking out for the interests of our clients, I think it's extremely important to make sure to speak up when I identify an issue or a path that a client is about to walk down, to raise the flag, to say, look, there's another path. It's a better path. It may cost less. It may not rub the union the wrong way. It may not result in that lawsuit, and at least present the options so that the administration, the school board knows what happens if you walk through door number one versus door number two. Eyes wide open. I think that's really important. And then the other thing that I have learned from folks that have mentored me over the years, including both Eric and Bill, is to be very cognizant of what the decisions that the board make, the administration may make, and what political ramifications. So it's not just about what the legal risks are, but what practical realities are, and what could happen, and whether that is a whirlwind that you want to contend with. And so I think that's an element of providing the great legal advice, making sure you understand what your options are, what the legal risks are, what the political risks are, and the risk to employee morale, et cetera, so that you have a real clear picture of what the decision could result in.
I'm not sure Bill would say this, but we also have really the best ethics lawyer in the state in our law firm, who is Bill, and guides us internally on the complicated issues that can come up with law firms.
Put him on the spot, all right?
Reputational issues. But Bill plays that role along with a couple of other attorneys who fill that for our firm, which is just are fantastic about that. You don't want to compliment Bill.
Well, I will say that I can't tell you the number of times where the discussion in our law firm is, so this issue has come up, what do we do? And then somebody usually, well now, no longer, someone in the past, someone more senior than me, says, well, let's just do the right thing here. Let's just do the right thing here. I had only been practicing law a couple of years when I received a big envelope. That was when you actually got physical mail. And at the top, it literally said, to everyone involved in this transaction except Bill Stockmeyer. And I looked at that, and I looked to Hugh McMahon, I said, Hugh, this is what I got, what do you think we should do? And we thought about it a while, and then Hugh said, well, I think we should follow the golden rule, let's just send it back to them, and that's what we did. And so, the point being that within a law firm, the way that you manage that risk is by having good ethical lawyers who demonstrate that to the younger lawyers and don't shirk from that responsibility and don't fail to do the right thing, even when it's hard and even when it's difficult. And the truth is, it is humbling how difficult it sometimes is to do the right thing. You know, it's easy to say you're going to do the right thing, but sometimes it's quite difficult. And sometimes there have been times when I've been quite humble. I think I've done the right thing, but I'm like, boy, why was that so difficult? You know, it really was. But recognizing that is part of the way you deal with it and part of the way you do the right thing.
I had one, and it's never been asked before, so you're doing it, yes. It's actually for Bill.
We won't know it.
You won't know it then, so, yes.
Good.
So one of the things that's in our future is potentially a new school. And so when you were mentioning bonding, I hadn't gotten to that part because John was making me a lot, limiting my questions. So, but how many schools have you worked through for that process? Because it does take raising a bond, getting that forward, getting public support. So what is your experience with that?
So on the 2011-12 rating cycle for state subsidized projects, you're at the head of the curve.
Correct.
You're number one.
We're number one.
We handled 2/3 of the projects that got funded. The largest project was Sanford at $110 million. And then down from there, I would have to say I've probably worked on 70 or 80, maybe more, new schools or additions, and then countless renovation projects and other types of projects.
I rest my case. That's my only question.
And I'd love to work on your project. I think it's very exciting for this district.
Great.
Any other questions? Do you have any questions for us?
Can't think of any, and I know you have a long agenda ahead.
Right.
I know you have a big bunch of stuff from us, but, you know, we have this beautiful Maine School Law Advisory that we put out quarterly, so I brought extra copies of that. So
Nice.
if folks want it, I
Great.
might just
Yep.
give it to you. We do that as a quarterly publication.
I appreciate this, appreciate the service you guys have been providing, obviously, so, I think we're good if, yep, the board is good, then thank you very, very much, appreciate that.
Thank you all.
Slide that down. All right, so we'll go. So next up, I will entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 4056E to discuss legal.
So moved?
Moved by Danielle, seconded by Kara. It's moved and seconded to go into executive session pursuant to 1 MRSA Section 4056E to discuss legal. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? 10. All opposed? 0. Motion passes. We will be going into executive session at 9:40.
Sean?
Should we make another motion about extending past 10?
Oh, yeah, I guess it is 9:40. So we will rescind the motion to go in.
Sean, I rescind my motion
Thank
to
you.
go in to executive session.
Danielle, and do I have a second on the rescind?
Second.
Second by Kara. It's moved and second to rescind. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor of rescinding? Then, and I'll entertain a motion to extend beyond the 10 o'clock PM in our bylaws.
So moved. I second.
It's moved by Katrina and seconded by Ms. Fledger-Rowe. Moved and seconded to extend beyond 10 PM. Have discussion. All those in favor? 2, 8, 0. All those opposed? Sorry, 2. Motion passes. I'd entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to 1 M.R.S.A. Section 405(c) to discuss legal.
So moved.
Moved by Danielle
Second.
and seconded by Carr. It's moved and seconded to go into executive session pursuant to 1 M.R.S.A. Section 405(6)(e) to discuss legal. Have any discussion on that? And all those in favor? We have 10, and opposed, 0. We will be in executive session at 9:45. Okay, we are back in session. Next item is discussion D, discussion on district restructuring. I guess this is a time for the board to discuss where we're at with the restructuring. I guess I'll open it up to anybody have any thoughts, comments, questions, feedback we've gotten, input we've gotten from the community. I know I've gotten quite a bit over the last few weeks, I guess, and I'll leave it, kind of open it up to the board. We made a decision last week about the special education director, and there's still restructured positions, so based on the feedback and input we've gotten, I'll open it up to anybody that has anything, or I'll keep talking, either one. Yes, Ms. Borden?
I'll just say, I'm pleased that we were able to move forward with interviewing a special education candidate. I do think we had a great discussion with the candidate that we had, so hopefully we'll be able to move ahead on that. So I just was happy to see that that could move along so swiftly.
Right.
I have something to say dealing with the transportation director. I just want to make it known he's been doing both positions and his contract is up. Publicly make it known, so it's troublesome to me about not having a contract for him with the restructured position in
So,
place.
yeah, that position was transportation supervisor, and it was restructured, eliminated the director of operations, and it was restructured to a new naming. I don't remember all the words. Yeah, transportation supervisory. So that's where we're at with that. That job was, that new position was posted and whatnot, and the status of.
And my recommendation is, if I may, to have a couple of things I want to, in regard to that, my recommendation is to continue with the existing transportation supervisor position, to extend the contract for 2 years, because he has only 1 year.
Yeah.
And to honor the fact that he has made additional contributions perhaps. We can talk about this year, but if there's any additional duty, there'll be added stipend to it. So my recommendation is to go back into position of supervisor of transportation as it was, to make sure it's extended contract for 2 years. And any discussion added duty will be in terms of the stipends. We've done this in other positions. That, in regard to that, I have other comments about other positions, but that's in regard to
Can we,
that
yeah, let's
position.
just focus on this one. I'll just ask so the transportation supervisor position with the roles that was in pre-restructuring, we would just add the roles in based on the
yeah, I would
director of operations?
Yeah, I would
or-
just continue the position as a transportation supervisor with the extension of the 2 years. And I think any additional duty would in form of a stipend, which would be a facility, of course, responsibilities.
So would,
Something we can have conversation after.
I'm just wondering, is there any value in in using the new name of the position in?
Because we want to stop, I mean, my goal is to really stop the restructuring process and start working on sort of moving on to the healing process, getting back to where we are, to kind of to move on with the operation. And I think the attempt is to recognize the position as what it was, extend it for 2 years, because he only had 1 year. And then also recognize the fact that if there's any additional duties in the next, we will investigate in terms of the stipend, which we do that with other positions. So that's just my recommendation to you on that.
Ms. Boyden, you have a question?
You asked the same question that I had, Sean, is I'm confused a little bit about the idea of continuing with it in its pre-existing, pre-restructuring form, while still acknowledging that there are separate duties that are being assigned to it, and we haven't talked about a plan for what happens to those duties in the long term.
My recommendation that to be given a stipend for additional duties in terms of the facilities.
So we would rewrite the job description, is what you're thinking?
I think
or-
it's a job description is the existing contract, which would be 2 years. And then you have additional duties. We've done that with other positions where whether you have a teacher and the teacher has additional duties and you get a stipend for it. Additional duties is about grounds and facilities. It's about facility maintenance. So to me, that's a recommendation I have.
Okay, if we want to come back to that one, or we want to continue discussing that piece. Do we have another one that we'd like to, anything else that we'd like to bring up relative to restructuring? I'll open it up to the board if we have other restructured positions, so, yep.
I agree wholeheartedly with what Dr. Naiman had said, that at this point restructuring is not working and that we need to go to healing versus, I also just again want to state that we are, every week we're losing ground on potential principals, and we're also losing staff. And I think we need to make adjustments today. If I was to, say, I think there's no time like, 5 of 11. So.
I do have the, oh, go ahead.
So what I wanted to do, I have some motions that I would like to read. I would like to make a motion to reinstate the position of the high school principal with all past job description and duties prior to January 3rd, 2019.
Okay?
I second it.
Okay, so, I'll need that verbiage.
Yeah.
We'll also need to, entertain a motion to authorize the motion as a special meeting. And, so I would need that as well.
All right, let me turn to that.
Make a motion to authorize
Authorize the motion?
the motion.
Yes, yep.
Yeah.
So,
I second
Katrina
that too.
and, Katie. So it's been moved and seconded to authorize the, motion, as, Ms. Bruton mentioned. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor?
I'm sorry, is this on the
4, 6,
motion
8.
to allow it?
Yes,
Allow it.
motion to
Sorry,
allow.
tired.
Motion to allow.
All right.
We're in this two-step dance.
Can I have that paper, please?
She
It has
just had a lot
I
more.
have all of them,
Okay.
and I'm gonna read them all the same. I have for 5
That's
positions.
one.
Right.
But we have to take a motion
We
for
gotta-
every
I gotta
single
read
one to
them all. I
have,
gotta
to be
take
able
them
to let you have the
I'll
motion.
sit next to Sean.
Yeah. This is what happens when it's
So it's been moved and seconded. Do you have who that is, right? Because you're keeping
Yep.
the minutes.
Yep.
It's been moved and seconded to reinstate the position of high school principal with all past job description and duties prior to January 3rd, 2019. Do I have any discussion on that? Yes, ma'am.
Can I just ask our attorney to make sure we're doing everything appropriately, because you look a little like you're thinking about it?
I am. If I understand the goal from, and I don't know all the positions, but the goal would be to essentially undo that
Yeah.
which was done on the 3rd of January,
Yes.
with regard to at least 5 positions,
Yes,
then maybe you make that motion to.
for all 5.
Well, to rescind the action taken on January 3rd with regard to the,
Assistant principals.
and I think you'd want to reference, and I'm forgetting the precise number, but 19
Oh, yeah, I have that, I did
10,
that. I
um,
gave it to you, remember?
to rescind
Yeah.
the action taken with regard to item 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. These would be separate motions.
And Sean has it.
To sort of clear them off,
Right.
and then you could then make your motions to reinstate. But to me, that, there are more motions to be made with what I'm suggesting, but it does sort of take care of that which was done, and then it charts a new course going forward.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes.
And then I would just point out that the motion to rescind is, does require, it can be made by any member. It can't undo that which was already taken place.
Correct.
You know, so in other words, if the contract had already expired, or if an action had already sort of ripened,
Right.
you wouldn't be able to undo that which was ripened. But my understanding is those positions, because the action was taken to eliminate them effective June 30th, that actually hasn't occurred yet, so you have time.
Okay.
And then I would just point out that you would want, I think, a majority of your full membership to support that motion.
Present or?
Majority of the full membership
To rescind.
to rescind.
Rescind.
But if we change, if we choose not to rescind and we do another way, we can change that and not have to follow that.
Right. Now,
Because you're recommending that as an attorney, but we can choose other options.
well, your agenda states that you're going to be talking about restructuring, but it doesn't specifically state that you're going to be moving to rescind anything or add in anything.
Right.
And out of an abundance of caution, what my recommendation would be to make sure that you have a majority vote of the full membership.
Right.
Because you could, two-thirds vote, a majority of those present with prior notice, or a majority vote of the full
Full
membership.
membership,
Those are the
right.
3 ways that you can breathe life into that motion. Does that make sense?
Do you have the January 3rd stuff?
No, I need it.
Oh, you have it?
I have some.
I have it right here.
Oh, I have on my
have
phone,
them.
but it might just be better for me to. So I'm rescinding?
Yeah,
So we will remove, rescind your motion.
Yep, I rescind my motion.
Rescind your motion, okay.
I rescind it.
Then Katie rescinds it as well, okay?
Okay.
So Katie seconded that, right?
Katie seconded, I have a vote
And I
to
rescind.
rescind. All those in favor? None here, okay, yep. All those opposed? None. So the high school and there was a combined, so,
I make a motion to rescind the action taken upon the board on January 3rd. The motion is 19-01-10. Is that enough, Peter? Okay,
you just have to reference the number.
okay.
So it's
What's the next one?
moved, you've been moved?
So,
Oh, so moved.
Just say which one that was.
oh, I'm sorry, this one is for the elimination of the principal at the junior high school and the elimination of the principal at the high school.
Great.
So it's been moved by Danielle,
Seconded.
seconded by Katie. And I need a motion to accept the motion.
I'll make a motion to accept the motion. For the
Katrina,
motion.
and I need a second for that. To accept, seconded by Kara. It's been moved and seconded to accept the motion as presented by Ms. Booton. Do I have any discussion? And all those in favor? 9. All those opposed? 0. So it's been moved and seconded to rescind 1901-10. Do I have any discussion on that? All those in favor? 9. Opposed? 0. Okay, so that 1901 -10 passes to rescind.
I make a motion,
9.
No.
And then just, in case I wasn't clear, what you could do now is move to reinstate, or you could go through all of the motions to rescind and then go.
Let's all rescind and then.
All
yeah, I
rescind.
was gonna rescind everything and then go
Okay.
forward.
Our brain will explode otherwise.
You said I just have to do the number,
Yes.
reference the number?
Well, you have to explain to the board what you're
Yes.
rescinding, so, yep.
I would like to make a motion to rescind the action taken on January 3rd, 2019 on the motion of 19-01-12. This is to restructure the assistant principal at the high school to become the dean of students.
I second.
So it's been moved
And now we have to,
and seconded by Katie. And do I have a motion to accept the motion
I'm
as
ready.
presented?
yeah,
Trina,
motion to accept the motion.
Second.
And Kara, seconded by Kara. It's been moved and seconded to accept the motion as presented. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? 9-0-0. So it's been moved and seconded to rescind 19-01-12. Any discussion on that? All those in favor? 9 opposed, 0. Okay, right.
Ready? I make a motion to rescind the action taken by the board. Can I just skip that now? Sorry, guys. I would make a motion to rescind 19-01-13, which is the restructuring of the assistant principal at the junior high school to become the dean of students at the junior high school.
It's been moved,
Second.
moved by Danielle.
Second.
Seconded by Katie.
Yeah.
I'd entertain a motion to accept the motion.
I'll make
as
a motion to accept the
mentioned.
motion.
And I'll second that.
Katrina, Ms. Kugelmeyer. It's moved and second to accept the motion. Do I have any discussion? All those in favor? 9. All opposed? 0. Been moved and seconded to rescind 19-01-13. Any discussion on that one? All those in favor? 9 opposed? 0. Okay.
I make a motion to rescind 19-01-14. This is the motion that was to restructure the assistant principal at Benton Elementary to become the dean of students at Benton Elementary.
Moved by Danielle,
Second.
seconded by Katie.
I make a motion to accept the motion.
Second.
To accept is Katrina. It's seconded by Kara. Moved and seconded to accept the motion as described by Danielle. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9 opposed, 0, 0. And so there's it's been moved and seconded to rescind 19-01-14. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Nada, okay.
I have one question for legal. Can I list all of the positions in one, or do I need to reinstate them separately?
Well, since it's different, there could be discussion on,
Each
oh, I'm
individual?
sorry.
Yeah, I would want to separate them out.
Okay.
We're good at it, let's just keep
Okay.
going.
And I wonder whether you need to reinstate if you've rescinded the.
Right, I don't think.
I don't think we need to.
Move
Yeah.
to change that. So
Okay.
really by rescinding the action, you're going back to January 2nd.
Okay.
Yes, exactly.
However, out of abundance of caution, you may want to, because you've eliminated a position, you could formally state with regard to at least the principal, that express the vision of the board that you want a principal in the high school and a principal at the junior high, as opposed to the 7-12.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good
And
idea.
make that clear.
Got it?
Katie?
Oh, my God.
Do we, is there any more discussion as far, before we make motions on restructure? I mean, does anybody, I don't want to just keep going one after another, so. is
What
there
would,
any-
what would we be discussing?
I'm just saying, I just
Okay.
don't want to just keep going and going. I give everybody else a shot here and,
Okay.
okay.
So I make a motion, now I'm just doing it off the top of my head. I make a motion that we return to the 9 through 12 principalship that was in place January 2nd, with the description and duties that were in place on January 2nd. Does that make sense?
For
No.
high school
High
and
school.
junior high? Or
I thought we
No,
had to do
she
each
was just
individual.
doing high school.
Yeah, do it.
I second.
So,
And I'll make a motion to accept the motion.
moved and seconded by Katie and Danielle.
Yeah.
And Katrina has a motion to accept the motion. And
Oh, second.
I have a second. Kara, it's been moved and seconded to accept the motion as pronounced. Do I have any discussion?
Actually, sorry. There was sort of this feeling of letting the public know a little bit more closely about why we understood, we just spent a lot of money.
This is to accept the motion.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
So do we have discussion on accepting the
Sorry,
motion?
Sorry.
All those in favor? 9 opposed? It's been moved and seconded to return to a 9 through 12 principal as it was January 2nd, 2019 for the high school principal position.
With duties and job description.
Duties and job description
Prior to January 2nd.
with duties and job description, right? We already got January 2nd. Yep.
Okay.
So it's been moved by, moved and seconded, I'm sorry, yes. Any discussion on that?
So,
Yep.
yes, to go back to 3 seconds ago, that we just spent a couple minutes just explaining why we just spent a lot of money to eliminate those positions and why we believe in bringing them back, so, but before I go on ad nauseam, I think other people have thoughts about that.
I'll do the very quick version. I think that, I think there's a couple of things. One is, I think that we see what it did to the school and to the culture and the community, and we recognized and we listened and we heard the voices of our communities. I mean, we're community members too. And I think that also, that information was, I'm trying to think of the best words. That I think that in learning more information, it became very apparent that we need to step back, go with what we've been, go where we are, go where we're going to go, and move forward. And yeah, this was a much better speech about 3 hours ago, so. Yeah. So yeah, so a shortened version, we listened to the community and the students and that's pretty much it.
Do you have something? Yep.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think for for me, it was coming down to realizing how the community truly felt, and the fact that when, I'll say, as truth has slowly trickled out to all board members, I think decisions may have been very different personally for me, because I can only speak personally. I think in doing this now and moving forward from this restructuring, I think we need to heal as a district and take some time in doing that, and to build us up and to become strong again.
Is the intent of the board, as relative to, the posting of the new position, we're in favor of,
Immediately?
I-
post?
yes.
So.
Should I put that in my motion?
We could probably amend that to,
I mean, I could,
it's up to,
regardless of what, I was gonna do that anyway.
Okay, so, yeah, I mean, that's,
The,
I think that's the intent.
We need to post it immediately.
We need to.
okay.
I know there are,
I just want to make sure the board is, that's part of the discussion here. Yep.
that's gonna take action right now.
Yes, she was,
And just as a last, I mean, my last, obviously, like, you know, I'm a paid, in my regular day job, a paid professional talker, but process is really important, and having open process, and I think this is the part where the board, I think, has really taken that lesson away, about making sure that we have enough due process, and that the public sees that, and that we are accountable for that process. So I will always push back about not having enough time to talk about something, not just because I'm a talker, but just because it is so important that people understand our thoughts, our reasons, we understand our trust and our fiduciary nature. So I hope that is the thing that we take away from this, in addition to healing, is that we really need to be factual and data-driven, so that the types of things that happen today that were very uncomfortable don't have to happen again. So we don't have to get down to a level of, like he said, she said.
and I will say, I would like to thank Ms. Harsom, since she's here, is the effort that she's put in as far as helping out through this process and helping out in that position. So I appreciate that. I think the board would probably agree with that, so. Yes, ma'am.
I'd just like to thank the people that did get involved, and I also would like to ask that they stay involved, because I myself, I can only speak for myself, I enjoy hearing from you, I enjoy trying to help you, I enjoy being your voice when I can. I am only one of 13, but I respect a lot of you, and I absolutely, hands down, enjoy and respect the students of this district.
So, do we have any further discussion on that? All those in favor? 9, all those opposed? 0, 0, that one passes.
And then I would also like to make a motion to hire to maintain the 7 and 8, not hire, don't say hire, to maintain the 7 and 8, no, Sean.
Principal position.
No, to maintain
So can
our 7 and 8 principal position, and have all duties and job description go back to January 2nd, 2019.
7, 8, principal position. I would just suggest maybe the next time we could just go off just to keep it consistent, but it's up
I
to you.
know, but
Yep.
Danielle's way over there.
You're good.
So now I'm trying to do it off the top of my head.
Okay, and I'll make the motion to,
Hold on, so, did you get all that? Motion to
Yep.
maintain the 7, 8 principal position?
Yep.
Yeah, I wanted to be the same, but I don't know what I said.
What was the rest of it? I'm sorry.
It's exactly the same as the other one.
Okay.
To maintain.
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 Yes, maintain.
Seconded that.
Maintain
I did.
Katie,
second.
Danielle,
That's the action.
and
together.
Yeah.
Ms. Dumois is
Motion to accept the motion.
motion to accept the motion
Second.
seconded by Kara. It's been moved and seconded to accept the motion as stated. Any discussion? All those in favor? 9-0-0. It's been moved and seconded to maintain the 7-8 principal position with duties, principal's position, same as January 2nd, 2019 for high school, for a 7-8 principal position with duties and job description.
Yeah.
Any discussion? All those in favor? 9-0, all those opposed? 0-0. Passes.
That's it? That's it.
That is it. Yep. So we are back to, still on district restructuring. Do we have anything else that we would like to bring up? I know we talked about another position earlier. Are we continuing to talk about that, or?
Where did we leave that? Just I want to make sure
So,
we're doing the right thing there.
that was left at, the superintendent was recommending to offer that position with a stipend, as it was prior to in the non-restructured position with essential additional duties and with an added stipend. Yes, ma'am.
Can we ask Peter about this? I mean, not to put you on the spot, but I'm putting you on the spot.
Sure. I guess I'm not entirely clear what I've heard. I'm not sure what additional duties there would be, and I think it would be important. The employment lawyer in me is saying that you want to plan, you want to review it with the board, you want the duties actually laid out.
Yes.
You want to talk about what the stipend would cover, what it wouldn't cover. When you're dealing with employees and part of their compensation is through a salary and part of it is through a stipend, and they're doing two different jobs, there's a risk that you'd want to analyze essentially whether more of their job is exempt or not exempt for overtime purposes, because you could get into very tricky wage and hour issues if you don't make sure that, a non-exempt employee, for example, a salaried employee can take on some non-exempt duties without eliminating the exemption from overtime. But if it gets too high, you're gonna make that salaried employee an hourly employee, and then they'd be entitled to overtime, which can trigger major headaches. So I think it would be important to lay out what you would like the position to look at, talk about that, and critically involve the affected individual in that discussion so they know what's coming. I think you want to do that before any vote is taken, and they may want to be here to voice their concern about
Do it
that.
next
So
time.
in terms of process and transparency, that's what I'd recommend.
Do it next time.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
Okay.
next time.
Yes,
And I
ma'am.
know this is my maximum, but, and I ask with that, where that stipend falls in our budget, we just,
Yeah, it was,
He can present
We
that
can-
next time.
I
Yep,
can do
absolutely, we'll
that.
take that up. Yep.
I would like to see that.
sure.
I think that would be great.
Okay, so no further discussion on restructuring. We will either go to superintendent goals, or we will table
Next
that,
time.
or we'll go to superintendent goals as the next piece.
Can I
Apologize.
do it next time?
Sorry.
I mean, I can.
Sean, I was actually
Yep.
gonna make a motion to table the superintendent's goals until next meeting.
Sure.
I second it.
Okay.
Did I do that right?
Okay, so motion to table by Danielle, and seconded by Katie. And so I have a motion to accept, I would entertain a motion to accept the motion.
Entertain a motion.
I'll give you a motion to accept the motion.
Motion by Ms. Dumont and seconded by Kara. It's been moved and seconded to accept the motion as mentioned. Do I have a discussion? All those in favor? 9 opposed, 0. And it's been moved and seconded to table discussion on superintendent goals. Any discussion?
Just, our next meeting isn't scheduled, believe it or not, until the 20th of June. I hate to say this like publicly, because we're spending so much quality time together, but do we need to, that seems like a potentially long time to wait, so should we try to find a better, like, a time in between there that, because I guess, Dr. Naaman, how quickly do you want to
I
have
have
this
this,
discussion?
can I forward it to you guys, perhaps?
I think we need to have a discussion, maybe,
Forward what?
Or have a discussion over? I mean, I have the goals,
not tonight, but I think.
not tonight, but.
No, I know, but I'm just trying to figure out, like, I'm asking you, Dr. Naaman, does the 20th seem too long? Would you like to meet sooner?
No, I think 20 would be good.
Okay, okay.
And then if you
Yeah.
forward those to us, then we can look
Yeah, I
at them
can
and
send
have
it ahead of time, yeah.
beforehand,
I
yeah.
mean, you can coordinate with Sean.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we did talk about doing that, but
We could do it.
it says in the policy that the superintendent's supposed to have, we're supposed to collaborate and have, I don't know how it's
We
exactly
do it
written,
June
but,
20th.
so.
But we're just talking, because, Sean,
Hmm?
you received all of our input. You
Yep.
were going to synthesize
Absolutely.
that. And then I thought you were gonna present the way I understood it, maybe
Right.
incorrectly, is that you were gonna get and say, here's the decision that I kinda made, because I'd like to hear your logic about which ones you included, which ones you didn't, why.
Oh, me? Yeah,
Yeah.
you-
okay,
And then have a discussion like with Dr. Naaman about those before we actually do anything with
oh,
them.
I can, if that's, I didn't
course.
realize that's what the board's intent was, yeah, I can do that.
Well,
Yep.
that was my thought about the
We can,
process. I
yep.
don't know if other people
I
agree
think
with
we had
that.
the intention without
Yep.
him knowing it.
Because
Yep.
that would, I think, that would be good, then we could just have an understanding, Sean, about why you made certain decisions, and then Dr. Naaman could give
Yeah.
input, and then we could decide about
Sure.
next steps.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
yeah, I think we can do that, yeah, I think we can do that, okay.
Sounds
So nothing
Alright.
else on, did we,
I'm sorry, where were we?
did we,
You took a
think-
that was under discussion, yes,
That's the
so,
I
any
seconded.
further discussion? All those in favor?
Yes.
9 opposed, 0. Okay, so I do have standing committee reports, non-superintendent's report, other business. I do have a couple things that I need to mention here, and it is late, but I'll just run through this. Where am I? Our educational technicians, 3s, and I'll try to say this the correct way at 11:30, but basically, they've notified the district through the Maine Labor Relations Board that they are basically are gonna have a ballot vote to organize for bargaining, collective bargaining. And on the letter, it states, petitions to intervene accompanied by 10% showing of interest must be received by the board on or before June 3rd, 2019. So basically, I'm just letting the board know that there's postings that should have already been basically put up, put in the school. June 10 is the vote, so if anybody has any questions, most of the questions, I don't think we'll have any. Or do we? Sorry. You good? Yep. Any questions on that, just you feel free to ask me. The other thing too is we have Miss Hersom has a title, and I'm putting her on the spot because I didn't say anything to her about this, but I think I can pretty much let everybody know that the Title I grant, Ms. Hersom works up and submits, and part of that requirement within the grant is to have a collaboration as far as deciding on what becomes grant funds. And you.
Our use of funds.
Use of funds, yep. So there's a group that's been, I guess, selected or put together, including myself, Dr. Naaman, Ms. Booton and Ms. Fledgerow was suggested for the committee.
Yeah,
Um,
and
if-
Ms. Hersom has emailed me and I,
Okay.
yes.
So if anybody is objective of that or supportive of that, if that's, I just want to let everybody know the committee is formed, and I'm not gonna read off all the names unless you want me to. If you want to know what they are, then, and then that will be back to the board on the 20th, yeah.
We'll have a report out on what we're recommending that we do when we put the application, when I put the application together.
Okay.
And there'll be an opportunity for public comment on that, where for about a week following the board meeting, we'll give some contact information for me and people can connect with me. and just offer their thoughts.
Mhm. Anything else on that? Yes.
Oh, not on that, sorry.
I have, yes, I'll let you go in just a second, but yeah.
That sounds great.
Okay.
The other thing I had, I just want to bring up, I have, as far as graduation on other business, I do have, I think I still have some people's graduation tickets if you don't have them. It's been brought up to me as far as anybody that has any thought on it. I guess some people respond, collaboration with me relative to making sure the senior class has what they want as far as graduation, as far as us, where we are and things like that. So my suggestion was leaving it up to the administration, whether it's Ms. Matulis or Ms. Herson or whatever it is, as far as where, how involvement we are or whatnot. So I think there was another piece too. I have the tickets and there might be something else. So that's just my suggestion. I'll leave it up to, yes, and yes, right. And we mentioned earlier that Mr. Campbell has agreed to join for the, so whether the, I don't know how the procedure typically goes, but I just want to let everybody know that was my suggestion, was to let the administration decide and then just get back to me, and then I'll flow that into the board. And I know there's some rebuilding with the superintendent and the board and things like that of relationships, so I think it'd be healthy to do that, but I guess I'll take a nod or a no, or anybody that's objective of that.
Sounds good.
Yep.
This time, everything sounds good.
Any other business that, yes, ma'am?
All right, and it's really fast. Just, my question is since we have been starting at 6 for the M.S.A., can we, it sounds like the 20th is going to go long. Can we start at 6 on the 20th as well?
Without pulling my calendar out, I think I'm not too objective of that, but I don't decide that. I'll let the board, have is it anybody else object to that? And,
Hors d'oeuvres.
I would get something.
Oh, yes, because we're having
So it will go
Yes.
extra.
Okay.
So
I
6
realized
is
I asked for a drink cart, but then I was like, oh, not here,
I'm gonna make sure they get full.
Yeah.
Sherbert.
We can have, what's it called now, the non-alcoholic?
No, things have gone, oh, no, now there isn't.
I am set on other business. If anybody else is good, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
I'll make a
Danielle?
motion
Yes, ma'am.
take Janice.
Okay.
Take Janice.
They stopped, she stopped me.
Ms. Chesley, yes.
Make a motion that the meeting be adjourned.
Oh, right.
You still have a
Second.
All those in favor? All those in favor?
Yes.
Mr. Whitman, I want to invite you to our workshop tonight. It's Tuesday, June 4th at 6:30.
Yep.
June 41, I don't